So, the NBN has had another exciting trade season. Just before we start off on this podcast, we have Wonder, Killer Dog, Kid, and me as well, K-Man of the 76ers. How you guys doing? How you guys feeling about some of these trades before the deadline?
I'm feeling really good, specifically trade 89. Feel good about that one. Feel really good about trade 83. Anything with the Memphis Grizzlies involved, I'm feeling really good.
I understand that, Wonder. I understand that you might have some bias here, but I think we're going to try and keep some bias out of this content.
Okay, I'll do my best.
All right, so
I had a black showing up
it showed up pretty early, didn't it? And then it just
That's all the Sixers' fault, honestly.
Gross.
This is gonna be. I understand this is gonna be a roast session. Don't worry.
I think the real NBA has a rule where any trade with multiple teams has to involve every team, like trading with multiple other teams in the deal.
Yeah.
I think we should consider.
we got rid of that
doing that.
because teams can just
They
use
also
the top 55 projected pick for that to get around.
Yeah, they also don't have rules about how many trades you can make, so you don't need to consolidate trades in the real NBA.
It's because the NBN Sixers aren't real life NBN front office members, so they don't need that kind of rule.
Oh man, they're just built different.
So,
Hey, there's Pete.
all right, let's look at the trades right before the deadline. But right before the deadline, the two trades to really look at: March 20th, we had trade 81, Isaiah Roby being picked up by the Pelicans. Pelicans made two good pickups here, as well as picking up Gary Trent Jr. A couple days later in trade number 82, as well as a pick swap, and didn't really give up much in either of these trades.
Yeah, they were shopping favors for a while. So to get Trent for that, I think was pretty. Trent and the pick swap was pretty nice for them.
True.
Did they end up keeping Roby?
Yeah, they still have Roby.
Okay.
Roby has been dominant.
Cheap 3-year contract too.
He has been good in real life and really been putting up, especially defensive numbers. He's been posting a monstrous rebounding numbers. And then, that was basically the two main moves right before the deadline. And then we had.
What were the Blazers doing, getting favors here? Because they already have Nurkic and Zeller, and I feel like they could have gotten something better for Trent.
I mean,
they
he's
didn't
on
get rid of Zeller. Yeah, they were shopping Zeller.
Yeah, they kept Zeller.
Favors is a pretty good asset as of right now, unless he gets bumped down.
Yeah,
right now, he's 80 on a pretty good contract, 3 years, 30 million, 80 overall, and he's only 29. So even though it feels like he's been in the league for 15 years.
Yeah, it's just Blazers are a team. I feel they needed guard help, and now they're stuck with 3 centers. I feel like they just ran out of time to make a deal.
So then, what is Thomas Satoransky not the answer to that guard? Is it not Alonzo Trier? Because these are players that actually are sort of decent. They can be like end of bench rotation players. I just don't know whether or not they're going to stay in the rotation to the playoffs.
I think looking at the roster, I just a guess. It seems like they're kind of building for next year because Trent, restricted free agent, probably going to get paid more than they were willing to go with, and they could keep Favors as a solid guy because they're going to be in the tax next year.
Oh, tax team. What were you looking? Did you end up keeping Dennis Schroeder, Memphis?
No, we traded him to Miami.
He went to Miami.
Right.
Yeah, our thought process was like we got a couple throw-ins basically with Satoransky and Trier. Carey was a throw-in from an even earlier deal, so we got Schroeder thinking we could turn around and trade him, and if not, we at least had his bird rights and get a second out of it. So that was our thinking behind that trade.
Well, that's literally the first trade of trade deadline. So that's actually a nice transition. Sending out Justice Winslow back to Miami along with Zach Collins. They need another tall white guy now that Myers Leonard is gone. You picked up Andre Iguodala, Maurice Harkless, and a few seconds, just a few this time. So obviously, the 5-team trade that happened later on the day. You knew that you were going to get more seconds. What was the thinking behind bringing in all these seconds that you all these picks for you in the future for Memphis?
Well, the main asset in this trade is the 2027 unprotected, along with 2 first swaps. That's what we were really focusing on. The seconds were kind of just like, yeah, we'll throw those in. They don't really have a whole lot of pick flexibility. So getting that first was nice, and then the idea behind getting all the seconds later, for one, Meme and I both agree that second round picks are extremely valuable in the NBN with lack of scouting and guys picking reaches and stuff. You can get first round guys in the second round pretty easily. So we value those, and then they're additional trade assets. So just kind of trying to do the most with what we have and get rid of the guys that aren't really a part of our future to build on.
Any other thoughts, guys, on this trade, or does the emoji speak for itself?
Not really.
I wanted to say something about that. I do think we won the trade, obviously, because we wouldn't have done it if we didn't think we won. But I think people are a little too harsh to Miami. I know Schroeder's out for a little bit, but the guys that they traded away were not guys that you want playing in the playoffs. I think all 3 of these guys are upgrades over each of the 3 guys that they got or they were getting rid of.
Well, I think
it's fine for them. I think that people just see a whole bunch of picks listed in a trade and then immediately want to gravitate towards that team because some people in this league are just very, I don't know, just view any and all picks as an asset when a lot of them legitimately don't move the needle much at all. But the Heat are a team that are going to be in the playoffs. I think that Winslow and Schroeder and maybe Collins are all guys that you can play in your rotation at the expense of maybe one rotational piece in Iguodala. I know Olenik's buried behind Cousins and Bam.
Kid, what was that again? Olenik?
Olenik. I mean, those pick swaps may not even come to us. So like that may end up being 0. And then the 2027 first, like if they keep competing with Miami being a free agent destination, like there's no reason why they can't just keep getting guys. So I don't think it was as uneven as like Kid said. I mean, people see picks and they just love it. This did start as a mock draft league. So, I mean, guys are in here to make draft picks.
And I think people see the emojis and just jump on that train. I do think that with the whole emojis thing, there is an understanding that it's either a yes or no thing with the wins or losses, but in reality, it's a lot more much more of these trades are a lot more balanced than the emojis illustrate.
Yeah,
I mean, it fits both teams' vision, I would say, and ultimately, there's not a lot. You're not gonna really hurt your team that much if you swing and miss. I don't think that swap's even going to materialize. So, in my opinion, it's a first round pick, like 6 years from now, a couple seconds, and who knows. We'll see.
All right. I think we can. I think we can begin with this. Trade 84. I think someone's gonna someone with server responsibility.
I thought Killer did it, but it's not working out.
Yeah. Well, hopefully pizza can come in eventually. Let's move on to trade 84. Let's do this. Domantas Sabonis to the Clippers, Paul George to the Hawks, Kawhi Leonard to the Pacers. Kid, we're gonna have to ask you, just because you're the inside man here. How did this come across? How did this come across to you? How did you get this opportunity to get Kawhi Leonard Kawhi Leonard and Furkan Korkmaz for basically just Domantas Sabonis? And a first.
I don't know about that. And TJ Warren.
I
didn't see that. I'm not really tries to go get stars. I think maybe it's in my subconscious being a Pacers fan. I just try and create a balanced team with 5 good starters and a stout bench, and then see what can happen from there. So I was not pursuing this deal, but basically I had DM'd the Clippers about possibly acquiring TJ Warren I don't even remember what I would have asked for in that deal because they basically just have 3 good players and then no assets otherwise. But Mega gets back to me and he says, well, actually, what would you give me for Kawhi Leonard? And it turns out, as far as I can understand from my end, the Hawks had already made an offer on Paul George that the Clippers really liked, which I understand looking at it, and we'll talk about that a bit in a second. Yeah. And so the Clippers were of the opinion that, well, we're going to move Paul George. I guess we'll hear out what we can get for Kawhi. And so, yeah, I said, well, I'll give you TJ Warren. I'll give you the first round pick I really have the ability to move, which is my 24. And I'll give you one of Brogdon or Sabonis. Brogdon, I said that, but his name was out there, and they said we prefer Sabonis. I did not, but ran some simulations. I was like, because I'm still terrified of Kawhi leaving, and I ran some simulations of what a Kawhi-less Pacers team might look like, both for this season when he's hurt, next season if in case he leaves, and it's something I can live with. So yeah, I was fine with it. Clippers and Hawks worked out there, and the Clippers just decided to go in a different direction with things not really going the way they might have hoped to this point.
When the Clippers asked for Domantas Sabonis, and you also had them throw in Hawks threw in Julius Randle, right? But when did it come to you? You're not getting Wiseman. So then, who are you looking to move to your and replace Sabonis with?
Kawhi Leonard. They both play the 4 for me.
Who's your son? Yeah, so he's going to play Kawhi at the 4 and Wiggins at the 2.
Wiggins at the 3, Halliburton and then Brogdon are the backcourt. Yeah. But the real sticky situation is what I'm going to do in the meantime with Kawhi out. It's like, do I play Pascal at the 4? I bump up Andrew Wiggins, play small ball 4, and have like.
All right, you play Brook at center. That's what that's what I'm forgetting.
Well, as of
they play Robert Williams now.
Yeah, Robert Williams is my starter.
But... Ooh.
I mean, what's the general consensus in the league about guys like Kawhi or PG? Is it that they're going to accept their player option? Is it that they're gone? What is the?
Well, after what happened with Anthony Davis, I don't know, but I think they both decline it.
I think there's very little incentive for most max level, upcoming free agents to accept a player option. They can always just re-up with that team after declining.
That's been generally the policy of the play option committee for the most part.
What does Kawhi have? Does he have full bird rights, or is he?
He would.
How many years is his deal?
Early bird.
No.
He has early bird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would need to be more than a 3-year deal, and I don't think he signed a 3-year deal with the Clippers. If he picks up the player option, then they get bird rights.
Yeah, and the Pacers also can't extend because this is his 2nd season.
We're welcoming into the show Pizza.
Welcome, Pizza.
Yes.
That's good. Finally figured out the mute button.
Do we have an extension option coming up?
We do have an extension window coming up. It is actually next weekend. We'll be beginning that.
I mean, if they can figure out a way to hold on to Kawhi, I really like the deal for him. I mean, Sabonis is great, but Kawhi is a top 5, top 7 player in the league. So when you have the opportunity to do that with giving up what he did, you do it every time.
There will be an announcement made this weekend about that, about the trade, about the extension window. So don't worry, guys. But listening to this, you get a sneak news.
I like the deal for the Pacers regardless. I mean, obviously you want Kawhi to re-sign, but I think this is the kind of move you have to make if you want to play in the playoffs against a team with Giannis, a team with LeBron and KD. You need a guy like Kawhi who can go against those guys, and especially since he's so good on defense, he can really lock down Kevin Durant, and then the rest of the team can try to go against LeBron. I mean, not an easy task, but I really like this move for the Pacers, and it's really interesting to me that I think they gave up less valuable assets than the Hawks did for Paul George, and
definitely
total honesty.
Definitely. I think
which is surprising because Kawhi is the better player.
It seems like the Hawks paid off most of the future talent for what Kawhi has, because the Hawks the ones that gave up Cam Reddish, James Wiseman. I mean, you only gave up a first round pick, and I guess the futures of Warren and Sabonis, but these are already actualized players for the most part.
True. I think Warren's overall is a little inflated right now. I think once he gets back on the court, he's not going to stay as an 84. But that's just me.
That's just him coming back. Whether or not he can come back from the injury, he's had a massive injury, right?
Yeah, I think he's just ruled out for the season. So you do get an 84 overall player essentially locked in for the rest of the season. But yeah, I don't know that I trust him to be, maybe all-star caliber overall rating for the rest of the year, but or the rest of his contract, I guess. But I don't know. The feedback from the league was generally positive for the Pacers. Obviously, you can by the emojis. I was pretty apprehensive about this deal. I almost backed out of it a few times because I just the uncertainty. I don't like having the uncertainty of having, my best player not under contract for the next year necessarily. But regardless, it's TJ Warren wasn't a starter. I trust that first round pick will not be too valuable with hopefully this continue being a franchise that competes. But regardless, nucleus of Brogdon, Halliburton, Wiggins, Time Lord, several other pieces that are good enough. I think we'll be okay whether Kawhi re-ups or not. But
thoughts on the Clippers, guys?
I'm really curious to see what they do with what happens with Kyle Lowry, because I tried to trade for Kyle Lowry and they seemed apprehensive about moving Lowry, which seemed a bit weird to me because they're trading Paul George and Kawhi and Lowry's expiring. So I'm interested to see what their plan is with that, because I don't know if they think he's likely to re-sign. I don't know what their planning is on that.
I think
and anytime you see it
increases their playoff chances for this year, actually, because they almost fell out of the 10 seed after they're like one game above now, but now they've got Randall coming in, and I think they can actually make a run. They're not gonna do much in the playoffs, but I think they're gonna be in there this year now.
Anytime you see a big star traded like this, or even two big stars, without the guys being really shopped around, is kind of weird to me, because those are some guys that could fetch some serious value, and I didn't even know they were available.
I mean, I was told that he was being shopped around to a degree, and I happen to have the best offer, but I don't know. I know I was better than the Hawks offer for Kawhi and PG, but beyond that, I'm not sure who else I was beating out there. But
were they on the trade block?
No, they were specifically not on the trade block.
So that was one thing that I noticed, is that there were a couple people that actually still moved that were not even on the trade block. That actually brings up the next couple trades we had as well, but we'll slowly first bring up the first one. Jonathan Isaac, trade number 85, moving to the Sacramento Kings. The Orlando Magic receiving Joe Ingles, Emmanuel Quickly, Kenyon Martin Jr., not the OG Kmart, this is new gen Kmart, and a bunch of pick swaps and a few seconds. Indiana sneaking in there and grabbing Patty Mills as well, and Kem Birch.
I posted in League Talk the breakdown of who gave up what and received what.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you say Jonathan Isaac wasn't on the block, but Jonathan Isaac was being shopped around quite a bit, and a lot of teams were making and a lot of teams made offers on him, definitely. And I thought he was gonna get more than this. I'll be honest. I know the votes said that that Orlando won this trade, but I disagree. I think Jonathan Isaac. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen Jonathan Isaac much on stream, but he plays like Jarrett Allen on stream, and he's just destructive on defense. He's a real game changer, and he can lock down anyone in the league that plays the forward position. That's really going to help the Kings in the playoffs, since they don't have much defense beyond the center position with Clint Capella, and this is really going to help them lock down the all-star forwards that exist. I mean, not that many in the West, but this is really going to help them especially if they get to the finals, where they most likely play Kawhi or Giannis or LeBron, which they're hoping to do since they're the first seed.
So just so I get this straight, Sacramento had Joe Ingles, correct?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
As someone that had Joe Ingles and used him to try and defend very good small forwards, he is not going to be as good as Jonathan Isaac. That's just how 2K is going to work. I think in real life, it actually could be a little bit closer to even, just because Joe Ingles be smarter in general than Jonathan Isaac. Veteran experience more so.
Why are you calling him dumb?
And Ingles is a good passer, and already an established good shooter. But
yeah, I would think that Jonathan Isaac though in 2K is going to be the much more effective defender. So in that aspect, Sacramento has upgraded in their wing defender. They lost on Emmanuel Quickly, who's a good rookie, but I think he fits that mold that we've seen constantly of rookies that are undervalued by 2K heading in and then get massive upgrades, and it just doesn't translate.
Here's a question. How is Sacramento going to afford both the De'Aaron Fox pay increase and keeping Jonathan Isaac?
How much do you need to pay for Jonathan Isaac?
I think like 20.
Probably try to unload Bogdan on someone.
Yeah, because they've been.
But they're going to have to give up something.
Yeah, they probably will have to they might have to use an asset to get rid of Bogdan. They might find someone who's thinks Bogdan has potential. I mean, I don't know who that person would be, but
yeah, and I mean
he is locked up for a while. He's overpaid.
He's got 3 more years on his deal. You also have Zach LaVine expiring next season, and he's only on 19.5, so he's going to be extension worthy eligible as well. The thing with Jonathan Isaac, they have he's an RFA this summer.
Yeah.
I mean, their salary just for their top 7 guys is $147 million. Right?
Well, now they need to find an answer for Bledsoe. I think that's sort of. That is why people were not interested in what the Kings got.
I think it was a very bad move to trade for Bledsoe for Patty Mills. I think Patty Mills is straight up a better player than Eric Bledsoe.
I mean, at this point, they're going to hit the hard cap. They're going to hit the hard cap
for Bledsoe.
Well,
it doesn't make much sense to me.
Well,
I think that's really from the standpoint of who they are on, because obviously I think how bad Bledsoe's been, Mills is the better player in real life, but Bledsoe still has 26 badges, like I made very clear to everybody.
That's true.
Well, he can do, like, I know defense is an area of need for the Kings, and I know that T1G, when I made this trade, he was like, yeah, I want to have the defense. Because I thought I'd have to throw in something with Mills with Bledsoe to get Mills because of the contract situation and because of the player that they are right now, honestly. But I was just trying to move him for an expiring, because if things don't pan out with Kawhi this summer, I want to be able to at least stick another very good player in there.
I think this is a really underrated trade for Indiana.
They don't have any money to pay Isaac next summer unless they have somehow unload someone without taking any money back.
But how do you unload Bogdan or Bledsoe when your only draft asset is the 2026 second, and Cleveland has the right to swap that?
It might force them to. It might force them to trade Tobias Harris or Clint Capella, both of which I could see them doing.
Taking Harris though, because that's Capella. I think
you're gonna have to pay me. The thing I could see is using LaVine.
Go.
Oh, maybe a sign-in trade for Isaac.
Sign-in trade for Isaac is still a possibility. Yeah. But then they have to take money.
They probably need to give up picks, and they already are kind of short on picks to give up. So,
yeah, I think the real question that you got to ask yourself:
what date do you get to 2028? What date does that unlock?
That would unlock probably after the draft.
As soon after this draft, then you can start trading 2028. So that's probably their plan, is just attach that 2028 first to somebody and get rid of them.
Well, Wonder, you keep bringing up the hard cap. I think I would want to ask then: does Sacramento consider maybe we try and really push hard to win, because we know we're not going to pull these guys in the free agency? Breach the hard cap for a year or two, because if you look at
you can't go over the hard cap.
You can't. It's hard for a reason.
It's the perimeter.
Yeah, K-Man means the perimeter. Yeah, the perimeter. You can't go over. Okay. You can't go over the hard cap.
Okay. Oh, that's weird.
It's going to be 163, and just with their top 7 guys, they're at 147. I mean, just for paying the remainder of the 6 guys on the roster, they're going to be close.
Yeah, they got to find a way to dump probably Bogdan then.
But this is a win now. This is purely we're trying to win this season. That's why you want Bledsoe over DeLon, right? It's like we're going to be in the playoffs. We're going to have a high seed, and we want to win on stream. And we think that Bledsoe will allow us more ability to do that than Patty Mills, which I get. But I don't know. Is this enough? I'm not sure. You win a title or even come close with Zach LaVine. Why do I keep saying LaVine as your best player? I don't know.
Kid, you've got like the Bill Simmons complex where you're just messing up names for no reason.
I can get all the Euro players' names just fine. It's the guys with relatively normal names that I botch.
Oh, so you're the opposite, actually, because Bill can't do any European names.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they got to – go ahead.
Okay. I don't think they didn't give up a single first-round pick. They gave up 2 pick swaps, which with the situation Orlando's in, I don't think those will be valuable hardly at all. I don't see Orlando probably getting either of these picks. Exactly. Like, I don't see them swapping either pick, which is why I really think this was a small haul, because I don't know how much I should be saying on this, but I told Orlando I would trade them this offseason. I told them I'd trade them Vucevic for Isaac and a first in the offseason, and they said no. So I think this is peanuts compared to that.
No, I think that might be just about having the fact that wait till summer. The uncertainty of what could happen in the summer. That's always a big thing. I think teams will take into consideration in that situation.
Yeah, of course. There's always the risk of,
someone getting right knee tendonitis.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I would have liked to see them at least get first.
Sorry, Wonder. We'll get to that. We'll get to that track.
Go, Wonder. Go.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, I only said the one sentence. I didn't have anything else to say.
I was gonna say that with the Kings, they've got their 8-man rotation, maybe 9 if you include Wayne Ellington, average of about 83 overall. And I think it has the depth of good players, but I just don't know if it has the top end. This is just going back to, I think it was Kid saying, can you win a championship with Zach LaVine as your best player? And I don't know.
Can you win the 2K championship?
I like T1G.
Can you win the 2K championship? I think that's where I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I actually like what the Kings have put together, is because they can win the 2K championship, I think, with his squad.
And are they that good of a stream team though, that they can win 7-game series successively against? I mean, I guess the West, it may not be that hard this year, but
they can at least get out of the West.
They can they get out of the West? I think that, to me, it's about whether or not Clint Capella can hold his own against the likes of Jokic and other really dominant centers. I think that's really the only.
I'd put Isaac on Jokic.
I mean, is Denver even going to be in the playoffs?
Yeah, they'll be on the couch for that series.
They have
and
to.
Denver plays Jokic at the 4.
Denver has to make the playoffs.
They're not in the playoffs
right now. Although the Lakers are getting out of there.
I'd be surprised.
And
if
the Clippers. Yeah.
Well, then let's move on to the Lakers. A trade 86. Rudy Gobert.
This trade blows my mind. I don't understand this.
All right. So why am I crazy for thinking this is balanced?
It's not terrible.
Because it's crazy. Because you're crazy.
Terrible. All right. Explain to me why am I crazy?
The Brooklyn firsts don't mean anything. Those are second round picks.
Yeah.
So you got to ignore those.
Okay.
But the reason I don't understand it is because of the up and down nature of whatever LA is doing right now.
We don't know that Brooklyn's first. I mean, this year, yeah, but 2023,
2023 might be nice. That's an unprotected pick.
That's true.
And Brooklyn is not necessarily in the position that the IRL Brooklyn Nets are. I think I'd actually argue IRL Brooklyn Nets are in a weirdly more comfortable position just because of how mercurial LeBron James is going to be.
Yeah, I guess with the 2023, I'm just kind of thinking bird rights on KD. If you can get LeBron to re-sign, if you keep winning. But you're right, the 2023 definitely could be something. I'm more just from the Lakers' point of view, they started to kind of rebuild and then kept Kyrie, and then now they're going back to trying to win, I guess. Is that what they're doing?
The classic Kyle. I mean, this seems like this is like a Kyle move, even though he didn't make it. So trade your players for picks, trade those picks back for a player at the deadline.
I mean, I think they just are always trying to maximize value in every trade without much.
Trying to minimize value.
I mean, I don't think they're accomplishing that, but I think that's what their it is.
I think they're doing a good job at minimizing value.
I mean, looking at this team, it's just not gonna do anything in the playoffs.
Got Kyrie at point guard. Yeah,
Lou Will's their fourth best player.
Kyrie at point guard. You got Lou Will's as shooting guard. You have I guess Bojan is gonna be small forward, and then John Collins and Rudy.
Yep.
I mean, as far as
Melo off the bench,
quote unquote big threes like Kyrie, Gobert, John Collins, that's better than most of the league. But I think it's kind of the same problem that the Nuggets are running into and that the Clippers were running into, where can you win much with three very, very good players? And you might argue that those other two teams have a better set of three good players, maybe. And then not much in terms of other pieces. Like Xavier Tillman out of nowhere. It's like he wasn't even thought that highly of. He's like, I think the last pick of our first round, and now he's like playing key minutes for them probably. I don't know if you want that.
I just, when the Lakers start to slide like they were, and they still have Denver, who we think could make the playoffs. Phoenix, you never know. They were in a position to kind of just cash in on this year, maybe trade some of their assets, like Lou Will, or even trade Kyrie, but I guess they want to keep them and just kind of take it as like a little, rebuild year. But I guess the pick is, I would have traded Kyrie, but now that I'm looking at this, Lakers first round pick to New Orleans protected for selections 8 through 30. So they're probably thinking they want to keep their picks, so they need to stay in the 8 to 14 range, 8 to 30 range. If they tank, New Orleans gets their pick.
Yeah, but the problem they're going to run into is the big problem here is that Rudy Gobert is expiring, and they have no guarantee. They have especially no. The hopes of bringing him back are low when the team is right now borderline playoff team. Can they get back in? Maybe, and then can they make a run in the playoffs that would convince Rudy Gobert to stay? I don't know about that.
And they already have John Collins max coming up.
Well,
so that would be 3 max players.
Well, considering that max, do you think that, if anything, this next window for the Lakers is actually the most important window for them to re-sign Gobert? just because there's so little time.
They have no chance of re-signing Gobert, in my opinion, in this window.
Well, they have so little time. They have so little time to prove anything that they can just play completely on potential. I think that's what sort of what my only counter argument would be is that they've given the Rudy Gobert so little time to decide on it and to mesh that he just has to go on the idea of, hey, I have Kyrie Irving, I have Bojan Bogdanovic, I do have John Collins as well. Matisse Thybulle is there. Eventually, he'll pop. That's what we assume. And
does John Collins even work next to Gobert?
I have no idea. Is that even
probably better than working next to Robin Lopez.
Probably better than working next to Embiid.
And Collins can shoot. Like, I think he's more naturally a 4. And he's not a great post defender. So I think that should be pretty good. I think that's what you want, him playing next to a good rim protecting big man.
But he's not necessarily a great perimeter shooter. He's not going to get you. He's not going to stretch outside to the 3-point line and do pick and pops. So I'm just wondering whether or not he can really stand next to Rudy Gobert. But
I know real life fit more than I know 2K fit, and just thinking about Gobert going from real life plays with the Jazz, has everything created for him, to Kyrie dribbling a lot, Lou Will dribbling a lot, Melo ISO in the post. Like, I don't know how Gobert is going to get any points other than offensive rebounds.
How is Rudy? So we were speaking about this in League Talk. Actually, Rudy Gobert. You were saying that people were saying that Rudy Gobert is awful in stream.
He's just big and he blocks some shots, but
that's what I'm thinking.
He cannot create for himself. So for a max player, I don't think you pay him the max. I don't think you pay him the max with 2K.
Does Rudy get the max then?
He has to. He will. If LA doesn't give him the max, someone else will. OKC will give him the max.
I don't know. No, maybe.
In the summer,
part of it is he's not a great offensive rebounder. I think even with some of the setting changes we've made, that's not a good offense. He's a 79 offensive rebounder right now. I think that is a big reason why you pay a big man a lot, and with him not being like elite at it, I don't know that you do. Like Andre Drummond, that's part of his appeal. He gets all the offensive boards, and on 2K, that's a big deal. But I don't know.
Yeah, Gobert's not necessarily the greatest rebounder, even in real life. So that's a historic thing. It's all about for him. It's been about rim protection, and in 2K, it's arguably more important for you to be a really good aggressive rebounder.
Yeah, I mean I like it for Chicago because with LA they could have kept LeVert, who I really like because I'm a Michigan fan, of course, but could have kept LeVert and Jackson Hayes, and these 2 first-round picks, which we think 2023 might be something. Chicago, I think, got good value.
Yeah, and meanwhile, LA's value, they traded. LA, I mean, piecing together trades here since they've flipped so many guys around. I think Jarrett Allen is better than Rudy Gobert straight up in streams, and to trade Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen and 2 firsts for Rudy Gobert.
Not Jarrett Allen, Jackson Hayes. Did I say Jarrett Allen?
No, but they traded Jackson Hayes, but they traded. Well, they had Jarrett Allen, and they traded Jarrett Allen for Hayes. Yeah, they're piecing together these trades. And it just doesn't make much sense to me, because if you're any logic you have for trading away Jarrett Allen, you get a guy who is like Jarrett Allen back in Rudy Gobert, but is older, worse, and expiring.
Yeah.
When did they trade Jarrett Allen?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm looking.
They traded Jarrett Allen at
you don't remember? That was
beginning of the season. Yeah, that's the worst trade in this league.
It was not as high impact as some of the ones we've had, but I think in terms of balance, it just like unjustifiable. Like a good young guy for a less good young guy, and then there's some other piece.
It was for Jackson Hayes.
Yes.
So they traded Jarrett Allen for Jackson Hayes,
right.
And then they traded Jackson Hayes in this deal for Rudy Gobert.
So they could have They could have just kept Jared Allen and had basically
and then kept
Gobert
Karis LeVert and kept 2 firsts.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm done tearing them apart because I know there's more that we could say, but
let's move on.
I think that just did it. I think that just ended it right there. Okay, trade number 87. Phoenix receives Willie Hernan Gomez. The Oklahoma City Thunder receive a bunch of seconds and Marcus Smart and his angry butt, as well as sending out Danilo Gallinari to the Celtics.
More than anyone won this trade, I think the Celtics be lost this. Like I understand that Marcus Smart is not good on 2K, or at least this year's shooting something like I want to say 38% and like 20 something from 3. But that being said, Gallinari is arguably not a positive asset at this point. He's got like a $21 million contract for the next, I want to say 2 years.
Yeah.
And he's a 79 overall, not 32-year-old 79 overall. Like he's coming
around. Overall. He's coming around recently.
Maybe. But if you're the Celtics, like I get not wanting Smart as a part of the equation, but like giving up all of the assets that they did just to get Gallinari, I feel like you could have stayed put and I don't know, or even move Smart for another piece. I really don't know. Is everyone aware that Marcus Smart is having a terrible year? I don't know, but
I wonder if Oubre was a topic of conversation in this trade, because if I was Boston, I would have been looking to move Oubre, not Smart. Especially with Oubre being unexpiring. But yeah, I agree with Kid. Smart just works with the Celtics, and I don't really know how good Gallinari is in 2K either, if you're talking about how Smart isn't good on 2K.
I like how I saw an emoji just get added to the Thunder while I was looking at this trade.
Oh, I've been moving. Yeah, I've been moving my emojis around.
I saw K-Man moved his balanced emoji to the Bulls for the Gobert trade.
Because I didn't think about I didn't think about how bad that 2021 Brooklyn first would be, and I did not. And I just did not think about what they gave up to get Rudy Gobert originally. All in general, with Karis LeVert and those picks, I was like, yeah, okay.
What did the Suns do here? They gave up Ish Smith, Harry Giles, or maybe not Ish Smith, just Giles, and then one pick.
Second.
Is Willie that much better than Giles?
I don't know how Giles does. Willie, I never put him in stream, but on Sims he would do all right. We'd play him like 15 minutes and he'd get like 5 and 5. So he was doing all right. I don't have a problem with what they gave up. Yeah.
They threw in at least 1 second in there.
Hernan Gomez, he got bumped up to a 76. Like I think he had to fill in real life for was it Steven Adams there for a while, and he did pretty well. Very good rebound. He's a 88 overall rebounder. Like he's 89 offensive, 87 defense. That's pretty good. And Giles his career appears to not be going anywhere right now. So I kind of like the Suns sneaking in here.
Yeah. So I'll say on the Gallinari side, so Gallinari has 1 more year after this and then a team option. So if he starts being really bad, he's an expiring next season. And I would have liked to have seen Marcus Smart go I would like to have seen them hold Marcus Smart until someone owned a team who didn't watch streams or look at stats, and then they could have traded him for positive assets.
Is he that bad? Is he that bad?
Wow. I love seeing him come on the court when I'm playing against him.
That's great because his shot tendencies are probably really high.
He's bad. And on the seconds, I'll say that the 3 seconds some people might value them more than I do, because I mean I got 3 seconds and a protected second for Austin Rivers and Gerald Green. So I just see seconds as more of you use them in this situation to fill in for a trade.
Speaking of seconds,
I think OKC did well.
I think it's time. I think it's time we do this wonder.
Well, we don't want to skip over this blockbuster.
Right.
Oh, and OKC gets Marcus Smart, which is great for them because they need someone to tank for them.
Tank
He's
commander.
Right. He's a perfect tank commander.
Perfect 7 seconds or less. Team option number 1.
So trade 89, the next trade.
Thinking about real life, Marcus Smart and Marvin Bagley trying to play together on the same team is just really funny to me.
The whole OKC.
Those guys would kill each other.
And Ish Smith in there actually trying to run plays, do some point guard stuff, and then Marcus Smart just says, "Give me the ball. I'm the real captain of this team."
So, K-Man, can you tell us at least what you did in this trade that's coming up here?
Well,
can you at least tell us your part?
Okay. All right. Here's what I realized that I actually just did. I had a gluttony at the 4, so I got a bunch of 4s.
Yeah, you did.
Oh my God, you got like 4 power forwards.
1, 2, 3, 4.
At least Kuruks, Anderson, Tucker, and Bridges play the 4.
All those players are power forward primaries.
Bamba's a power forward?
No, Bamba's a center. So
only 5 power forwards.
Do we have a broken down version of this? Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk about it if I don't know who gave up.
Everyone that came or went from the Sixers.
I have there was a list actually somewhere.
Okay, everything that I received, I think, came from the Sixers.
Every player, I think, came from the Sixers or went to the Sixers. I'm pretty sure.
I'm probably the only team that was involved with each team, which is the only way which is why I'm the only legal team in real life in this trade.
Yeah, I really think it's a 5-team deal revolved just around you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know what the Spurs gave up here, but I do
They
like
them. They gave up Miles Bridges and 2026 first.
All right. I'll give you what these. I'll be able to give you what each team gave to me separately. So the Spurs gave me Miles a 2026 lotto protected first, which converts to 2027 unprotected, as well as 3 2021 second round picks for Rui Hachimura.
Expensive, but I think Miles Bridges is shit, so I don't know. I think that's a wash.
Okay.
Yeah, I had him and he's ass.
All right.
So I understand why the Spurs traded him. I don't understand why they traded for him in the first place.
I like Miles Bridges in real life. That is why I took this trade on. I took him on. I don't like Rui Hachimura in real life at all. And especially on 2K where his defensive statistics are awful. Miles Bridges is a 75 and has a higher total attribute than Rui Hachimura, who is a 77.
For now.
No, he dropped down to 77. He was 78 earlier and 79 even before that. And even when he was 78, Miles Bridges, a 75, had higher total attributes than Rui Hachimura.
Rui's a 77?
He dropped down to 77.
And maybe the Spurs didn't make a good move. Spurs low-key making bad trades this year.
I think it's a pretty even deal.
I really like what Miles Bridges have been doing recently in real life. So that was my thinking from the Spurs side. And I was really looking to move Rui because to me, of the wings that we have, Patrick Williams, DeAndre Hunter, Rui is the one who is least likely to hit his potential talent, least flexible, the worst defensively, and also worst defensively and least flexible. Really, the biggest keys for me.
I don't know if I like now. So the Magic, I get where the Magic trying. And this feels like an in real life Magic kind of move because they've had Mo Bamba as their starting center all year long. He's like a 74 overall. So understandably they want to get another center, so they move him or Kaminsky, and it looks like all they got back were seconds. I don't know how much value a Wolves second, a Pelicans second next year is going to bring you. So I don't know that I like
all those seconds.
It's not like they're going to win. It's not like they're going to like plow through the playoffs now that they have Frank Kaminsky instead of Mo Bamba at the 5. I don't think I like
huge
the
upgrade. Yeah, I agree with that. And then what did Brooklyn give up for Taj?
A second.
Oh, yeah.
1 second for both of those players.
1 second, and then Radion's Crooks, Timothy Luau Cabarro.
Okay.
So
that's a good move for them.
I think it was just
so they did that just to get a little better for playoffs.
Yeah, shore up their bigs because I really had a gluttony at center as well.
As much as you can shore up your bigs by adding a 76 and a 75.
I mean, and I think Claxton's going to be better than those guys by the time that the playoffs roll around anyway.
Yeah, because Claxton's been good in real life.
And they already have Cauley Stein and Aldridge. So I don't know. That's curious.
Yeah. I'm sure she's not even up to date. Claxton is already better than both those bigs that they picked up because Claxton just got bumped up to a 77. So
did he really? Okay. Wow,
yeah.
Interesting trade then. Well, I mean, they didn't give up much. So
they didn't really give up anything. I mean, TLC and Kuruks aren't very good.
No, those are just expiring contracts for them. I think that Jaws, just because he is on a low contract next year, they already now have their minimum center locked up. Taj, he's a 76. He's got really good defensive ratings. He might be able to be he might have some small part in the playoffs, maybe, but not bad.
Yeah.
Memphis.
This trade for Philly does ruin what I was rooting for, which is having Ben Simmons and a bunch of 70 overalls. Because you guys had like 77, 78, 76, 77, like on your whole roster sheet.
Yeah, we're the opposite of the Clippers and the Denver Nuggets and all those teams. We have one player and then a whole list of players that deserve minutes.
If you say so.
The Memphis part, I guess, is actually the most interesting part hidden in here. They got Shake Milton, Gary Harris, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So there are
second round picks.
Five real seconds. Yeah. 2 of them basically won't exist.
Okay, so 5 second-round picks for Kyle Anderson, PJ Tucker.
Just those 2.
That's it.
So Tucker we got in as a throw-in on a trade that we traded Bruno for and got PJ Tucker. So we were kind of just like playing with house money with Tucker at that point. Anderson, we had been shopping for a long time, and the most value we were hearing was about 2 or 3 seconds. But we're also getting paid here to take on Gary Harris's contract, so that's part of why we got a couple extra seconds.
Well, you got helped.
Milton was the real prize, honestly.
Well, you got helped out in real life by Gary Harris being moved to a team where he can actually have a restart in his career. So that was one. Yeah. That was one thing nice for you that Gary Harris did get moved. I was not expecting that the Denver to actually make a move and find someone to take on Gary Harris. And I know that you really held me ransom for the seconds just because of his contract, and you really play that well. But I really don't think that his contract is that bad just because next year it's already expiring. It's not that expensive, and he's got a lot of badges. When he played for me, he was not awful. So it was.
He's gonna be He's gonna be like our second or the third highest paid player next year. Probably not play.
So, K-Man, walk me through this, all right? As we all know, this offseason had the big 3 of Embiid, Simmons, Chris Paul.
Uh-huh.
Then 2 of those guys not there anymore, and you've fallen almost to the very tippy-toe tail end of the playoff picture there. But then you trade a guy like Shake Milton, who I believe is like 20 years old and already pretty good player, for a guy like Kyle Anderson, who's a little older and currently a little better. It seems like more of a we're trying to win right now move than we're trying to build for a future move, unlike, what all your big moves at this point have been. So why this deal?
Because it's actually, it really is a win for the future move, because if you look at what Wonder can probably tell you, Kyle Anderson doesn't really provide much offensively right now. this is purely for next season. Like this, when I say that's a future move, it's really for the future as in next season. Kyle Anderson, I'm expecting a much bigger improvement from Kyle Anderson heading into next season. I'm expecting a much bigger improvement from DeAndre Hunter. I'm expecting a much bigger improvement from a lot of my players next season, because a lot of my players are these guys that have popped off this in the like last year, where their tendencies have not really caught up to what their real life guys.
Okay, so you think their tendencies are going to be a little bit better next year, and
I'm banking on that.
And because Kyle Anderson has been improving. Kyle Anderson has been improving in real life.
Kyle Anderson shoots threes now in real life, and he does shoot. I can get him to shoot threes in Sims. That's about as far as I can get so far. It doesn't go in.
I mean, that's an improvement.
It doesn't go in.
It's an improvement.
But at least he puts them up. But yeah, no, that's my thinking on that end, at least. For Miles, I'm saying the same thing for Miles Bridges. If you look at his numbers have dipped, but his efficiency has gone up amazingly in real life. So, and as I pointed out before, his overall attributes are really well balanced and much better defensively than Rui Hachimura, who might be one of the worst defensive players for how high he is on the offensive side. Mo Bamba is sort of just a 2K big that we just wanted to have. The 2K big that we want, the defensive stalwart. I mean, yeah, he's a 74, but his numbers on Sim and on stream are ridiculous. He's a genuine center in 2K, very similar to, he's basically a budget version of Andre Drummond, the way we look at it. And we didn't give up any firsts. We didn't give up any firsts in this. I think that was the biggest thing for why this wasn't a win now move. This was purely a for the future move, because we didn't move first. We kept all our firsts. We moved maybe a couple seconds and got back some other seconds as well.
I guess if you think Kyle Anderson's going to be better in the future than Shake, then by all means.
And Shake,
are you satisfied with the blow up of your team that you did at the beginning of the season?
Yes. Now that I moved Rui Hachimura, because honestly, when we did that Wizards deal, I wasn't happy with Rui. That was probably my least. He was my least favorite part of that. And once we got DeAndre Hunter, that's when I was happy with what we had done. And then now that we got moved, Rui got brought in Miles Bridges. I'm happy with the wing rotation that we have now.
So and what's the plan? What's the plan with this season? Are you going for the playoffs? Are you tanking?
We're having fun. That's what we're having. We're having fun. That's what the goal of this season was always to do. If we make the playoffs, great. We'll have some fun there. If we don't, fuck it. Who cares?
Do you see a timeline? Let's ask you this. Do you see a timeline where any time in the near or distant future you have a trio of players like Embiid, Chris Paul, and Ben Simmons?
The trio would be, from what I would perceive, Ben Simmons, DeAndre Hunter, Patrick Williams. I'm looking towards Vassell, Pritchard to pop off and move up to like high 70s.
That's not a trio.
I'm not saying I didn't say a trio. I didn't say a trio.
He wants to build a team.
I want to build. Yeah.
I think Kid is asking the question because when you have already a big trio, why blow it up to try and replicate it when you already have it?
I wasn't trying to rebuild a trio, and I think that right there also is pointing out what was one of the big issues. Chris Paul and Embiid and Simmons, I thought would work out, and in our Sims it did work out to a certain in our streams and Sims it did work out to a certain extent. I'm not sure why it didn't translate early on in the season, and we decided to make a move pretty quickly.
You had like 4th in the East when you made that trade.
Pardon?
Weren't you like 4th or 5th in the East when you made that trade? And
we were only a few games into the season, and I was not happy with how we were looking.
Interesting. Very fickle. Very fickle as usual from Sixers front off. I would expect nothing.
I think another issue we had was that the sliders were not set in yet until late on. So when earlier our Sims were looking better. Once we knew the sliders, we were then unhappy with it, and we saw the early results in the season. And when we continued to run Sims and streams, it was just we were not happy with what we were producing, and we made a quick decision that if we're not going to win the championship, why are we just going to break our head, spend so much time, effort to try and win it with this terrible core that we know is not going to beat any of these teams in the second round or third round or the finals.
Shall we venture forward?
Dude, I like how K-Man's explanation for his reasoning was just like the same as what is happening to the Rockets, but we just like didn't move anything. Like we get the feeling like how are we gonna win like beyond the first round in the playoffs? And it's and
beyond I'd say beyond
we're
the
just sticking around. We're just I guess we're just sticking it out and seeing what happens. And as the season has gone on, we've figured things out more on stream. Hopefully, I mean we beat the Warriors, which shocked me, but
well, and you never know too. Just like real life, a team can catch fire or find some reasonable matchups if guys get hurt in 2K. If you're there, then you can take advantage of it and maybe win a championship. But I agree with the whole idea of if you're not going to win the championship, get better. That's kind of what we went for this year. But
yeah, and I think in this league it helps somewhat to be more patient because there are guys who don't come on a lot and who might overvalue your players and then send you offers for players that are much higher than you thought they would be, like trade 90.
What is this trade, guys?
Why? Why? I cannot believe how much Detroit fleeced out of Josh Richardson.
Yeah, this is insane.
I wish a guy had DM'd me and said, "Are you guys interested in moving Josh Richardson? We'd be willing to give up a substantial package for him, like 2 first-round picks for Josh Richardson."
Might be expiring too. He's got PO next year for $11 million.
2 unprotected first-round picks.
Yeah, in 2023 with a team that is relying on Joel Embiid and Kristaps Porzingis.
And
Beal's there too, but
Beal to stay.
And
because
let's look at
that far in the future he might not.
Yeah, let's look at when that is. 2023. That is the season. That 2023 first. That's going to be.
That's when
Joel
Embiid and Porzingis are off the books, and Beal is going to be either re-sign or somewhere else.
Yeah, so that'll be the year that Joel Embiid and Porzingis expire. Bradley Beal will have already picked up his player option or gone somewhere else or extended with Washington by this point.
Not to mention in the meanwhile, Washington doesn't really own any of their stuff. Philly has the right to swap with them in 2022, 2024. They don't have their picks in 2021 or their pick in 2021. So if you look at the rest of their roster, I don't know how they're going to convince Beal to stay.
I don't know how they're going to convince Joel Embiid to stay even the next year, because you're looking at this roster. What are they going to do this summer? Because they have a lot of players they need to re-sign, a lot of roster spots to fill out. They don't have any players that are on rookie contracts that extend into 4 or 5 years for that to really fill out the end of their rotation. They are in a very precarious situation, the Washington Wizards, and it's going to get much worse in 2024, 25 as the years go on. So that is a huge.
Maybe you guys know this better than me, but off the top of your head, where's Washington in the playoff standings?
They are right now 9th, but they did just lose Porzingis for 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, so they may not even make the playoffs with what I'm thinking is probably going to be their best version of this roster.
It's happening.
Which means next year, if they're going to be looking at basically the same roster, but worse on the bench side of things. They have to keep Bertans.
Well, the one saving grace for Washington is that, personally, what was always the worst case scenario for trading Embiid was that he actually realizes his potential, and that has actually happened for the Washington Wizards. Is that he's really this season has been the Embiid MVP race before he got the injury. could he enter next season with those actual tendencies that translate to Embiid being dominant, or replicating the numbers that he does in like maybe 4 out of every 10 sims where he puts up 35 points and 29 rebounds, something like that.
Yeah. I think we're talking a lot about Washington for a trade they made 3 months ago, when we should be talking about how monumentally stupid this is for Dallas.
Well, that's why it's so stupid.
That's why. That's solely why. So
Josh Richardson is a player who is either going to accept his player option, or, I mean, I had him. He was going to accept a 3-year, $39 million deal. And about 2 days before he accepted that, I traded him with 2 seconds for Bobby Portis. And then to think, a guy who gets paid $13 million a year is worth 2 unprotected firsts from, like you guys were saying, Washington might be very bad by that point.
The most precarious situation of a team. Like that's what I think. That's why we spent so much time on it. This is the most precarious situation of a franchise in the whole league, arguably worse than the Clippers even.
I mean, they are fourth in the West.
Now aren't nearly as precarious.
They're fourth in the
assets,
West. They're fourth in the West, which is not, that's not terrible. They gave up no good players, and let's not underestimate Trey Burke in this. He's solid.
You could argue that they are one of maybe 2 teams to beat in terms of the playoffs that are played out on stream, at the very least.
Yeah.
So is Josh Richardson going to move the needle that much? I don't know. It's even here we go on stream.
I think he moves the needle backwards.
No.
I think he moves the needle backwards on stream, to be completely honest.
They lost JJ.
I watched a couple streams. I've seen a couple streams with Josh Richardson, and he's a guy you sag off of. He's a guy you can just leave open. I mean, Glenn Robinson might be a better play for them at the 3 than Josh Richardson, just because he can hit an open shot. And he's really not good.
Yeah, Josh is not good, especially now that he's gotten worse as a 3-point shooter. At least earlier, he had that whole thing where he had that one season in Miami where he shot threes well, so his rating was at least a little higher and his tendency was a little higher. But now this season, he's been even worse from 3-point line, so he's just dropped off.
He has a 75 and 3-point shot in 2K. It's just not good.
We're also to top it all off. You just mentioned this guy came. They take Jose Juan Barea. This man has played. Well, this is 12th season in Dallas. He was a part of the 2011 Finals team that knocked off LeBron James, finally got Dirk his ring. He's been a part of that franchise in one way or another for most of the last 15 years, and they trade him in the twilight of his career. He is, 36 years old. They trade him to the Detroit Pistons, who have won, I want to say, 9 games, and it's almost April.
Detroit has more trades than wins.
They waived him. They waived him immediately. So he can.
Thank goodness.
I don't know.
I think we would have. I think we would have had to suspend the Detroit Pistons if they tried to keep him.
Yeah, they have to waive him. This is just a formality. His career ended. His career ended here as we know it.
Well, I don't know, because that's the thing. I mean, and if everyone remembers,
didn't they just keep him off? Didn't they just keep him because they had already signed him? Oh no, that was fuck. Who am I thinking of?
They gave him a $2 million 1-year deal.
No, who's the player I'm thinking of? Shit, the guy that went overseas. The guy that went overseas that they signed for 4 years for $4 million a year.
Jordan McRae.
Yeah, Jordan McRae. That's the guy I'm thinking of. So yeah, I guess a team can sign JJ Barea. I don't know what the hell he's doing in real life.
Well, if anyone remembers the streams from the last couple of years, JJ Barea is a tank and a clutch shooter beyond belief.
It's true.
If someone can sign him, they will sign him. He's definitely worth picking up for a late season run.
Teams are gonna be looking for him. But yeah, no. So Detroit, the clear out-and-out winner of this by getting two Washington firsts, 2023, 2025, unprotected for Josh Richardson. Trey Burke.
Oh, JJ Barea does play overseas.
Oh, so then he's not eligible.
So he can't play. So he's done.
Nwaba's a 77.
Nwaba's not bad.
I'm looking at it.
Nwaba's like the same overall as the guy that the throw-in's the same overall as the guy they traded the two first for.
That's bad.
I do think they got better, which at least they didn't.
Did they?
I know Pizza's saying they got worse. They got better. They gave up nothing for players. Those guys weren't playing. Trey Burke is better than JJ.
You're right. If they traded guys who combined for 0 minutes, so getting play time out of the guys they trade for is a net gain. I mean,
yeah.
I just can't.
The worst case, they just bench Josh Richardson and don't play him a minute.
I can guarantee you, Detroit would have done this without the 2025 Washington first. They would have done it for one first-round pick.
Average has a 73 3-point actually.
Oh, and there's probably something to be said for, in the playoff race, obviously you need to have guys who can win on sim, which maybe Josh Richardson might be able to do for you. They're fourth right now. Yeah. They could move up past Golden State, get third, not have to play the Pelicans or the Warriors or whoever ends up in that 5 spot. Instead, have a matchup against presumably the Wolves. I don't see the Wolves passing or staying ahead of the Pelicans for the 5. So there's something to be said for that. You advance to the next round. You play the Rockets as of right now instead of the Kings. Probably the better stream team in terms of those two matchups. So I don't know if all that was going through guys' mind. I'm trying to bend over backwards here to defend it, but yeah, I mean
that's definitely part of his thought process is moving up beyond where he is, because right now he'd have to play the Pelicans, and that's a really tough game, really tough series to have to play for anyone.
Maybe he's thinking he can use Richardson as like a Harden stopper and a Clay stopper.
I feel honored.
Well, let's round this off before we get to the 90-minute mark. Trade 91, the end of it all. Jalen Smith picked up by the Phoenix Suns. Miami receives Daniel Tice. And the Boston Celtics get Reggie Jackson, Bobby Shmurda, Miles Powell, and a 23 Lakers second.
Why did Miami sell so low on Jalen Smith?
Yeah, they're going for it now. If you look at their roster,
is Daniel Tice good? I don't know.
He can shoot.
He's a 78 overall.
Yeah,
and he can stretch the floor.
You could argue he gets more run with the Bulls, I would imagine, this year in real life, so he could go up.
He's going to be essential to them for their playoff run now.
Have a 3-and-D big man.
Yeah, right off the bench.
The problem for Tice getting more minutes is they have Vooch, Markkanen, and Thad Young still.
Oh, that's true. And Pat Will.
He might get less minutes on the Bulls, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because the Boston started him for a while there.
Those also have Pat Will that they can shift over to 4 as well, and they're going to look to really probably move to a smaller rotation. But the fact that they could move to a smaller rotation would help Tice. The fact that he would probably be the best like for like replacement for Vucevic. Especially for we'll see how the future goes. But as you said, it's win.
I know Duncan Robinson is struggling in real life, but is he really worth an 86 3-point rating? That seems really low.
Yeah, he's a 75 in 2K. It's really low.
Yeah.
I
like it for Miami to kind of push in. I do think they probably could have gotten a little bit extra out of Smith, but
do you think
another trade I don't really care for Boston? I think either way, it essentially comes down to you want to trade Reggie Jackson or Daniel Tice for Reggie Jackson. I don't think the other assets are worth all that much.
Miles Powell.
I think their bench skews more towards having guards already than having backups in their front court. But
yeah, they just traded Noel already.
Yeah, like now their backup center is, I guess I say is Stewart, but he's a couple points lower. Actually, no, he just got a ratings boost, so maybe that's why. Well, I guess that was after the trade, so they got kind of lucky. But he's a 78 now, just like Tice.
Well, I think they would I think they could have predicted that Isaiah Stewart would get an increase pretty soon because he has been dominating for the Pistons very recently, and he's going to continue getting more run as the season ends for the Pistons. Yeah, I mean, is Reggie Jackson's okay in stream?
Jackson's
Marcus
Smart replacement, I guess, as far as backup point guards.
I'd actually say he's a better scorer than Marcus Smart, probably in 2K at least.
Maybe
he's a better scorer in real life, actually, but that's not why you value Marcus Smart.
Here's a question, guys. With this trade, does this make Phoenix, or maybe they already were, does this make Phoenix the closest to their in real life counterpart?
Who's Frank the Tank?
Orlando.
Willie Hernangomez.
The Pelicans have him in real life.
Because I'm looking, it's like, okay, so they have 1, 2.
Oh, you're saying the players literally. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you just meant like similar
4,
like archetypes.
5. I feel like they have like 7 guys, which in this league is a lot to.
I have to imagine Miami has the most similar.
Well, then
they've made like 2 trades, right?
Well, then in that case, they should have hit me up for Frank the Tank and Dario Saric.
That's true, because they've got. Yeah, you're right, because they've got 1, 2. It's not as close as you think. 3.
Yeah, they did give Boogie Cousins $20 million.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They only have 9 of their real life guys. 10 if you include Davidson.
Do we want to, as we wrap up, do we want to just got some teams that we thought were winners and some teams that we thought were losers overall?
Yeah, let's just go around. We can go around. I think a big
Indiana, I think, won.
I mean, not why I wanted to do this, but I thought it'd be a good wrap up to what we're doing here.
I did want to ask you earlier when you spoke about the JJ Barea and the whole hometown. How much did it hurt to move DeMontis?
What hurts me already is the fact that he's a shell of himself on 2K and he doesn't shoot threes and he averages like 15 points a game. So I don't know. He's just frustrating player to own on 2K, honestly. And so I don't know. I was okay with moving him. I'll continue to happily support him in real life.
Dominant centers can be frustrating in 2K.
It's true.
This may be a hot take for a loser, but I think Milwaukee is a loser of this trade deadline.
Because they didn't do anything?
They didn't do anything, and Indiana, Atlanta, and Brooklyn, I think, all made moves that strengthened them. Miami got better. Boston
made moves also.
Boston made moves.
Yeah,
they tried.
They made moves.
Better.
No, Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn's a stretch there. They had a couple bigs that play, but
I think Brooklyn gave actually less effort.
Everybody, yeah, they than the team that did nothing.
Well, no, Milwaukee's did less effort than Brooklyn or Boston. I would say.
Milwaukee's going in the offseason with Kevin Love's contract still in the books, with Victor Oladipo still, potentially leaving because they didn't get anything for him, so they could just miss out completely.
They've had no interest in moving Oladipo unless they were getting something really big. They really hope they really think they can bring him back.
Good for them.
Yeah, so I just looking at their team, when the teams that surround you at the top of the Eastern Conference added Kawhi Leonard and Paul George respectively, and you did nothing. I mean, that's something.
And Dwight Howard just got hurt for a few weeks too.
Oh, he did, didn't he? So who's their center? So their center is Azubuike?
Well, Kevin Love, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, Kevin.
Very honest. But
yeah, I think Chicago won this trade deadline solely because Baby Levert gets his Karis LeVert The reunion.
That's true.
Now all he needs is Claxton.
I like that. I think he's going to be. I would not be surprised if he's the next owner in the NBN. I think he's doing a good job with the Bulls since he came. I think a lot of the really underrated moves we've had have been Bulls victories.
Nice change of pace. Yeah, I think the Bulls. I think the Pistons though have to be mentioned. Just forgetting.
Yeah, but I don't really want to give them very much credit because that that is crazy that they were able to do that.
I think that they're just they're the omnipresent winner. There are a couple omnipresent winners here, the Pacers and the Detroit Pistons. But I think that for true good work, the Bulls did a really good job here. And I give it to you, Memphis. I think you did a really good job with eking as many seconds out as you could.
Yeah, they really shook you guys down.
We had
Memphis.
I have a summary of everything that we gave up.
We had a lot of seconds, and when San Antonio came in to help us out by replacing those seconds, many of those seconds, we only lost. We gave 3 away to Kaminsky, so I think it was then a wash.
So for in League Talk, I posted it. Those are the 5 players that we netted, and at the bottom is what we gave up, and then in between is all the picks that we grabbed.
I would say another winner for me, the Thunder, and they really just made the Gallinari Marcus Smart deal, but they got a bunch of seconds and got out of the Gallinari contract, which I don't think is all that great. I mean, I know when they signed him, they probably expected to move him for more, but I think the haul that they got for him is not as good as could be expected. And conversely, I think the Celtics are kind of a loser here. They lose Marcus Smart, which whatever, Daniel Tice, and then a lot of other just random seconds and Holiday and Giles and whatnot. And what do they get back? They get Gallinari, who, like I just said, don't love his contract. They get Reggie Jackson, who I'm kind of indifferent on. I don't think really moves the needle in terms of how far they can make in the playoffs. So, I don't think they did much to become more competitive in this year's playoffs, while also kind of giving up, some of their future outlook a little bit.
To me, it reminded me a bit of when Magikarp used a splash.
Their moves just didn't move the needle at all for you.
Yeah, exactly. It just did. I mean, maybe if Gallinari really pops off at the end of this season, I think that's the really only thing that's going to be the saving grace for them, is if Gallinari can pop off, improve his overall, and then translate as well to real life. But yeah.
Man, Gallinari is just a horrible fit in real life. A guy who constantly gets injured on a team that constantly has guys out for injuries.
So, biggest losers? I think we hit some of the biggest winners.
Dallas.
Yeah, their future outlook. Oh God. Dallas.
LA. I think the Lakers really. Both LA.
Both LA. LA. Just the whole city lost this one.
The whole city of LA just took an L.
Here's one. I would say, just for the optics of getting beat by this same team in another trade, in my opinion, the Denver Nuggets. I know they gave up only a 24-second for Kent Bazemore. Why you would even want to trade for Kent Bazemore, I'm not really sure. And when you couple that with what has turned out to be an absolutely abysmal KCP trade, it's just funny to me. And they're not. I don't know if they make the playoffs, and I don't think Kent Bazemore helps them get there, regardless. But that one made me laugh. And I mean,
they reminded me of that KCP trade.
Deadline. They're kind of stuck in where they are, the same old roster that's got them to 10th place right now, maybe 11th, and they didn't really do anything to change it. So
I forgot about that KCP deal, man. Oof. They traded for a worse player and traded a first away.
Yeah, now that he's tanked to a 75.
Yeah, and Malik Monk is up to I think he was a 79 last I saw.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, and okay, you said move on from the winners, but another winner I have is the Pelicans for sure for getting for getting Gary Trent. We kind of forgot since that was a little earlier.
Oh yeah, no. So we actually did hit the we did hit those two moves that they had done right before the deadline before you came in. So, but yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that's why I really made sure that we pointed those two out because those were really good moves. Isaiah Roby has been dominant, and he's basically a better version, a much younger version of Derek Favors, while also being 4 or 5 inches taller. And then you also bring in Gary Trent Jr., who is going to be getting a lot of minutes on the Toronto Raptors now.
Yeah, I feel like the Pelicans are doing a really good job, like making sure to compete right now, but also not sacrificing any of their potential dynasty aspirations.
They made no moves they didn't make no moves on the deadline day, and they come out of the deadline day as one of the winners.
The Pelicans have been continuing their interesting roster construct, and by interesting I mean very good, because normally teams are either young or they're good, and the Pelicans are young and good.
Yeah,
it's I think I said it yesterday. I said it's demoralizing to see teams just continually give them this stuff.
I think
with Jarrett Allen, Gary Trent, Isaiah Roby, that kind of stuff, and teams just throwing these pieces away, these good pieces away to New Orleans for very little in return. I mean, I don't think we think Derek Favors is worthy of an 80, right?
Probably not.
He plays like 14 minutes a game in real life. He gets like 6 points and 4 rebounds.
Well, I think that's going to have to do it for this podcast, this trade deadline extravaganza. I want to cut this down. I'm able to cut it just under 90 minutes. Good work, everyone. It's a great season, and now we're going to head into the end of the season. And final stretch. Any last words?
Go Grizz.
Yeah, go Grizz.
Man, go Rockets and go Grizz.
3 go Grizzlies.
And go Pacers.
Go anyone that has to face up against the Washington Wizards.
Tampering.